the sake of recording. All right, so this is the Drupal core cross-initiative meeting for May 28th, 2020. And we will talk about all the things that people are working on and how we can be helpful there. So who wants to go first? Any takers?
Oh, I can because I don't have a whole lot.
Okay.
I really wanted to pop into this meeting because it's the last one really before Drupal 9 comes out. And I'll leave any of the Drupal 9 commentary to you. The migration system is doing really well. We met pretty much all of our goals to actually not be an initiative anymore, but we are still working to improve the migration experience for everybody throughout Drupal 9. So we have a few things to work on during the course of Drupal 9. One of the big ones is moving the Drupal 6 migrations over to Contrib, which will happen sometime in the next year or two, and then just continuing efforts to improve the ecosystem. So don't have any real needs, but just to report, there's some big progress in the paragraphs migration in Contrib, which is great, and then the multilingual stuff. The big ones have dropped, and we continue to do incremental improvements in that area. So things are going really well, and a lot of good stuff is dropping in Drupal 8.9 and in Drupal 9. So just good news to report.
Yeah, thank you, and congrats. So do you have I think you have an issue to close the initiative or some such, but it's basically awaiting having all the credits collected.
Yeah, closing it as an official initiative, there's an issue out there. I don't know, it may not be finalized yet, but we met the major goals, which is to have a stable version of the multilingual migrations. Even though, again, there's continual bug fixes and DX improvements and UX improvements that we're going to keep doing, just because Drupal 7 still has a very high adoption rate. We want to make sure everybody can migrate from Drupal 7 to Drupal 9 as easily as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
So work continues, but yeah, not an official. I don't think it will be an official initiative for Drupal 9. So I may still pop in here and give reports from time to time.
Yeah, I mean it will be nice to say thanks to all the contributors that did all of that amazing work, I think.
I agree. There was a lot of them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you. Do you have, so I think you also been previously looking at Symphony 5 stuff.
I have, and I created most of the issues that were required, and I've kind of been watching them, other people move them forward, and I haven't in the last, I haven't done a whole lot with patches or anything in the last couple of months, just been busy with really real work. But to me, full Symphony 5 compatibility is still like a 9.1 beta target. And it is on my list to pick those up, follow them through, and make sure that they all get pushed through. But I'm a little behind in doing it.
No.
9.1 beta is, well, I mean, with 9 coming out and everything else around getting that ready. 9.1 beta would be is probably what, like September, October?
It's October something, yeah.
So the 75 to me is a beta target or an alpha target, I guess, for 9.1. So I have not prioritized it personally just because there's a few months left, but it's still definitely a priority for me for all that stuff to be an alpha target. So.
Yeah, the alpha is October 19th, and then the beta is November 2nd.
Okay. Yeah, so I still think that stuff's all an alpha target. I've been, like I said, keeping an eye on the issues because I'm following them all, and they mostly seem to be moving forward, which is good. So I don't anticipate any issues with not being Symphony 5 compatible by 9.1.
Yeah, there's actually a whole bunch that are closed apparently.
Yeah.
that I'm
Yeah, a
looking.
lot of them have moved and been done. As they wrap up, like I said, at some point in the next months, I'll probably put up a patch to start running tests against Symphony 5,
Mm-hmm.
like we did before with Symphony 4, and we'll find new stuff then. Just need to close off those major, like the actual deprecation issues first. And so we'll move all that forward over the course of the summer. Right now, I just kind of want to get 9 out and deal with any whatever we got to deal with after 9 comes out. You know, whatever fires have to get put out from 9.
Yeah.
Never know. Those are. But yeah, I still think 75 compatibility for 9.1 is going to be something we can definitely do and shouldn't have a problem with, and we should definitely do it and keep up with it and make sure every release is compatible with the latest version of Symphony 5 as we go through the 9 cycles, so that we don't have to go through all of what we did, all of what we had to go through, like around the 8-7 days to get us ready for Symphony 4 this time. Just like be there and be ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, if there's all the issues there are already open, then it's not that many problems left.
I think the issues that I opened were all the actual deprecation issues. So anything that Symphony 4 officially said, this is deprecated and gone in Symphony 5, I opened an issue for. I think once we close all those out, then we'll set up a test suite against it. At which point we'll find all the unofficial stuff they didn't deprecate, that they changed or we hacked or we were not using correctly from the beginning. So we'll find all the issues. But we'll get through it. We'll get through it this summer, I think.
Okay. Well, I took some notes for that. Thank you. Great. Who wants to go next?
I can go next. Well, me and Laurie, actually. I would say for the admin UI initiative, probably what we can talk about is about Claro, and maybe also well, some other discussions that we are planning, like discussing about the layout that we are using right now in general on the admin UI, which is basically one column, and we want to discuss about the layout and discuss things like having a sidebar where we should let people have or use this sidebar, and I don't know, several things really related to the layout to have more complex layouts in general. And well, that's a discussion that we're planning, actually. More than a discussion, it's probably going to be more like an online, not workshop, an online work session or something like that. And yeah, apart from that, I think probably the most important thing that we can talk about is that there's going to be like a global Claro Sprint or something like that, because for the design for Drupal, there's going to be this 44 hours sprint, and they're planning on focusing it on Claro, and probably there's going to be some movement there, because there's going to be also designers and developers showing up in there. And
I'm trying to look up the info there, but it doesn't seem to be present in the design for Drupal page.
Okay, probably because I haven't sent the links for the recording and everything, but because the plan is to have, sorry?
So sorry, they have a schedule page that says it's a global contribution day, but it doesn't actually have any other detail.
Okay.
Basically, all the schedule is you and the contribution, which is great.
Okay. I will check that later. I'm not really sure what's exactly the plan for the rest of the day and everything. So I will just check later. Anyway, the plan is giving them like at least one video for introducing people to the design system, which will be really useful for anybody that wants to actually come and contribute to Figma and the design without actually having to be the same people explaining everything for 1 hour. And that will be really handful. And ideally another video for explaining how to contribute to the issue queue for Claro, which might also be helpful. And apart from that, well, we'll need to prepare the list of issues and stuff that needs to be worked on. And apart from that, probably Laurie, because on the design side, just stuff it's just being worked on. Laurie, not sure if you want to say something. Don't want to take all the time.
So we've been making progress on the use UI. So we have a patch there, and we've been getting some reviews on that. And so one of the issues, at least, that is blocked is the views bulk operations issue. I'm gonna send a link to that on the chat. Let me see if I can find the link for that.
Great work
on the link for that.
By the way, while you were looking for the link. It's nice.
So yeah, we need accessibility review on that, but
yeah,
I can't find the link for that right now. So I'll send it in a bit. And so if you have any accessibility people on the call, it'd be great if you could take a look at that. And another issue that is blocked is the toolbar, where we need input from product managers and release managers on a solution. And I'll send a link to that too. So here's the bulk operations, and toolbar issue that needs feedback from release managers / product managers is the second one. And yeah, I think those are the only issues that are blocked currently.
Okay, one thing we can do if NG is available and we finish on time, or finish before time, is we can look at the product manager one and then provide the feedback live, and we don't need to chase each other. Just don't want to hold up everybody else looking at it, right? But I'm happy to provide feedback within the hour. Okay, so thanks so great work on the views UI again. And I will try to help promote the design for Drupal thing, which appears like it's basically all about Claro. I guess that's the thing.
Yeah.
That's the Claro event. Design
basically.
for 2020. Great. Okay. We'll promote that as much as I can, because it's practically the week after next. So it's the Friday of the week after next. So it's getting quite close now. Nice. Thank you. Okay. I think one thing that we discussed before is to change how the initiative is promoted. Then we wanted to have a larger discussion about that. Where is it? Strategic initiatives. I think it's still promoted as the admin UI solving everything initiative.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any more discussion regarding that. So probably just before doing a step further, we should probably everybody involved should have a discussion about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Or at least one last discussion, I would say.
Yeah, one thing that we are looking at, I think, now is with the release of 9, it would be nice to have clear call to actions for people like this is what we need help with. And that's, I think we discussed multiple iterations of having more focused initiatives is easier to call to action for and to feel satisfied when you solve them. So yeah, okay. I will somewhere, definitely in the doc, we'll take an action item to figure out a discussion.
Yeah, probably we will agree just to have this step to be sure that everybody's heard and
Yeah,
has something to say.
Absolutely. Initiative. I mean, I typed it right. It's still complaining. Anyway, okay. Made a note of that. Who wants to go next?
I can go next, if you don't mind. Yeah, the CMI2, there hasn't been a lot of activity in the last few weeks and or months, and so we decided to postpone the future meetings until the Drupal 9 is released and things calm down a little bit because everybody was very busy, and then we resume in the summer again. So we haven't decided precisely when, but like the issues are still there, and there's still some conversations. But after our success with getting the configuration storage transformation in, a lot of focus has shifted to contrib, to update to the new API, and it's still ongoing. But the goals for the initiatives are still the same. We scoped, as we spoke last time about, we scoped out the things that haven't really had any real actionable topics, or not topics, but issues to work on. And so we focus on making configuration aware for different environments, so that you can have modules in different environments that are not there, and that it's handled properly. Kind of like the most common use case in contrib for this. And then all the nice to haves for making distributions work nicely, and for sharing configuration across different sites, like what feature was doing. There has not been really anyone else to step up to take over this topic, and so we decided to exclude it. And then if someone is very interested and motivated, then of course we this person can take over the reign.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, everybody was super busy, so we admit that we're not doing anything right now, apart from of course there's still a lot of things going on, but not as an initiative. So we postponed the next few meetings.
Mm-hmm.
We'll resume them. There's an issue that where everybody can subscribe, so that we ping everybody in advance when we resume.
Nice. That's nice. Okay, that's fine. I mean, it's important to take breaks when you need to take breaks.
Yeah, exactly. It's I mean, if it's not working, then you have to be honest about it and take a break and resume when it's working again.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you. I want to talk about Olivero.
Yeah, I can talk about that. So lots of cool things happening. Spent this past week working on a lot of a lot of header region type stuff, like get to accommodate like crazy amounts of text or logos or things like that. Got the new Drupal Evergreen logo integrated in, which is nice. Been working on like miscellaneous issues. Everything's looking pretty good. A big issue that we're currently working on right now is form styles to make them accessible. There's a lot of like very esoteric use cases, like for example, like Firefox and Windows high contrast mode has just been like a complete pain in the ass. But it's coming along, and we're gonna push through that. And then generate the patch and things like that. So we're gonna try to automate that. If anyone has experience with that, like definitely let me know. He was gonna reach out to both like Christina's initiative, was it Claro initiative, and then Umami to see if they have anything. I don't know if he did anything like that. But yeah, so the TLDR is like, it's coming along. It looks really good. I will post a link right now, and you can play around with it. But like, you know, I'm still like a little scared of the core patch process today.
That is an entirely reasonable position.
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So I think you had an issue with your target for what you want to achieve to get into 9.1.
And we haven't been working on that quite yet. Like Putra and I are in the same project, and we're both like been pretty busy with client work. She more than I. So like, if you look at like our contrib stuff, it's like, it seems like either like manic depressive, like we put time into it or we don't put time into it. And so we honestly haven't like reconciled that with like what's actually happening. I don't know if that's quite up to date.
Because that would be a good thing to look at sooner than later.
Okay.
So that's the kind of thing that MG and I could provide product feedback on, and then we can involve. I mean, Larry's here. That Larry would be able to provide framework manager feedback on, not necessarily just looking at the issue, but the whole thing. Once we are out with 9.0, then that's kind of the next thing that we are looking at is what's going to be in 9.1. So it would be nice if we would be able to provide feedback on the plan so that we can ensure that you're not hit with feedback on last minute, like, oh, by the way, you should have done this, this, and this.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to get some of that. But I've been trying to, for example, like talk to Lowry and, you know, any other people that as necessary. I think we're going to be good. You know, I've been also like keeping an open channel with the accessibility maintainers, which is going to be like, of course, a pretty big gate for us to go through.
Yeah. Here, I'm going to post, this is the beta requirements thing. Well, the target for 9.1. And it looks pretty good. I mean, the beta must-haves for the beta release list is almost done, pretty much.
It's looking pretty good. I posted the link in the Zoom chat right there. It's the one with the crazy URL that ends with tugboat.qa. And you know, if anybody actually wants to log in, since that's the tugboat URL, I'll get the I know this is being recorded, but whatever. The username is admin. The password is Florida Drupal Camp, all lowercase, all together. And you can kind of see how it plays with Drupal. You can see how it goes with the forums. I've actually on my local, I set the admin theme to this just to see like how the forums interact and stuff like that.
Nice.
So
Cool. All right. I mean, great progress. Very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then I think offer that are here for Rector stuff from two aspects. Rector, are you?
Yeah, so I think we're waiting for 9 to come out to talk about future steps. In the meantime, we're happy with what's happening, and hello.
Oh,
Kids around. And yeah, so we would like to get more feedback. We finally got a few issues. I expected to have many more, but seems like mostly things are working. Yeah, so more feedback on the patches themselves, the combination with the bots. So far, things are good for us, and we continue developing things. I still create the command line that would help work with it and get to much more sophisticated use cases, but very easy to run. That's another plan, but it's beyond the Rector rule themselves.
Mhm.
Yeah, and which would happen is that somehow this would become something we can integrate, that when a deprecation comes out, there's a Rector rule with it, and for the most part, modules become evergreen, like the logo.
Magic.
As far as the bot, I've been working with Gabor and Mixologic on figuring out some weird issues, which we think we've, there were some weird issues where patches didn't get created. So we wouldn't have seen them on the issue queues, but it should allow us to add another few thousand projects next time it's run. Mostly there was positive feedback, I think, about the bot. There was some concern about the commerce ecosystem, but I don't know. I talked to Matt Glyman and told him, if he's interested, to file an issue on the infrastructure project and the Rector bot component. And I think I don't know, it didn't seem like he was going to. I mean, I think he can work around closing issues that he's not, doesn't want the bot to update again. But we'll see. I haven't heard other negative feedback. About 80 projects have been updated so far. And there is one issue in the infrastructure queue about changing the default info.yaml change. So yeah, if anybody has issues with that, with the bot in general, you can find me in Slack, but better to, as far as so ideas don't get lost. If somebody has an idea for changes, to put them in the issue queue, and that's it.
One more thing I want to mention that you mentioned from Matt Glaman, that we didn't realize we can use or should use, was the PHP Unit 8 upgrade. So beside the Drupal Rector work we do, Rector has tons of PHP upgrades ready available. I don't know if it would be able to help Core to do certain upgrades between Symphony, in the future PHP 8, and all that. And in the last Slack thread that I remember, I wasn't clear about when should people use PHP 8 upgrade and when not. But the bottom line is it's very, very easy to add to the config or to the bot the ability to upgrade packages like PHP Unit 8 that's already, the work was already done through Rector itself.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, that's also another thing. If we do want to change, I would hope there'd be an issue in the issue queue so we could talk about the repercussions and whether people want it or some people don't or whatever. So I just don't want to surprise, all of a sudden create new patches. If everybody,
No, go ahead.
Sorry. I was late for the meeting on Monday because of the holiday, but maybe we could also talk about more ways of communicating with the bot. So each module can maybe even say which versions the module expecting to support, or maybe it's 2 different versions, because the bot can do all these things pretty easily. Right now, it just does the same for everyone. I'm thinking once we have any kind of communication way, the bot can do for each module its own config and run whatever upgrades needed or not needed for that module.
I think the bot could look at the info. I mean, the PHP Unit 8 deprecations are problematic to remove because then you lose compatibility with Drupal 8. And so if you don't want to do that, then that shouldn't be done. That's my understanding. But if you want to do that, if your file is explicitly only, if your info file says that you are explicitly only compatible with Drupal 9, or that's your intention, then should be entirely fine to do those, and you would be ready for Drupal 10.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of, sorry, go ahead, over.
I'm saying as we're mastering much better the whole upgrade process and minor versions, and as Drupal 9 continue, and maybe someone doesn't want to lose version 8.8. So if there was a way to tell the bot what's needed, it would be easy to make sure that the bot would not apply certain deprecation patches.
Yeah. Yeah, I think long-term, we should figure out either when somebody has time to check out a Drupal.org dev, whatever, where you can actually propose changes to Drupal.org, or the DA has time to put like a checkbox or a selector or whatever. Because we could add more kind of janky stuff to the issue so they can, provide feedback that way, but I think it gets difficult to document. So yeah, I would hope if the bot is a long-term thing, if it would be something that on a project page you could say opt out altogether, or provide patches for these versions of my module. I'm not sure. Yeah, for my opinion, I don't think we want to go. Yeah, I think it'd be good to get like a long-term communication strategy versus what we have now is pretty blunt. It's just like close or don't close, which I think is we needed something.
Maybe just a thought, maybe it would be possible to add to a module a YAML file that is specifically for the bot, and the bot would read that if it exists and then just make decisions.
Isn't there already a PHP standard neon file that is included, or is it not read by the bot?
It's not. Yeah.
I mean, that seems like the first easy step, because if you run the command line by yourself, then it would read it, right?
No, not necessarily. I mean, if you explicitly specify that it should be read, but it would be rector YAML, by the way, for this case. But then but the rector YAML has a very specific syntax, like it provides the path to where the rector files are, and that depending on how you installed your contrib, they are located at a different place depending on where your vendor is. How you set up your composer set up on where it puts your vendor, it would be at a different place. So I don't think it's necessarily practical to be able to provide the rector YAML in a way that is universally runnable. And also, if the rector project itself does some refactoring, or it changed their internal YAML files or whatever, then your whole config would go bust. So that's
yeah. I mean, I think part of the benefit also is, if you know how to make those neon files, you could probably run rector yourself. Whereas I think the bot is really helpful for people who don't want to take the time to run Drupal rector. So having people have to figure out how to make these files probably negates a lot of the benefit for a majority of the projects.
Yep.
And the other thing is, if we have some sort of file that the bot reads, presumably we have to support that forever, versus if we wait till the main, we have something in the project that you can check a box or whatever, then that's a whole lot easier to sort of keep up to date, I think, versus eventually hopefully we'll have it in the project, and then we have to if we've supported an intermediate method, then we probably have to support both, and which one takes precedence, and it becomes more, I feel like it becomes more complicated and harder for maintainers to understand.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay, I think that covers all of the initiatives that were present. I guess I can report for Drupal 9. It's going to be released in 6 days now.
Woo! Woo!
Dang.
Yeah. So there's there's a celebrate Drupal.org page, which is basically what I would try to promote here, which launched earlier today. That's for all of our online celebrations now that we will not go to parties in person to party. So that we built that I was part of trying to encourage building that, but a bunch of nice people built that in the past few weeks. That provides a platform to upload short videos or selfies or artwork or cake photos or fun illustrations or online event info for whatever celebration you are holding that other people can join. So it's basically like a place for gathering all of the celebratory content around the Drupal 9 launch. And it's celebrate.drupal.org because it's evergreen, and it would then be used for celebrating other things about Drupal.
I just tried to go to it, but it redirected me to Drupal.org, so to just like www.drupal.org. So I was wondering, is it behind a VPN or firewall or something?
I don't think so. That's not something that I.
Maybe I spelled it wrong.
Celebrate.drupal.org. Here's your link.
Oh, it's celebrate. It's just celebrate.drupal.org. Okay.
Yes.
I assumed it was a subdomain. Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah. So that the domain is owned by the Drupal Association. The build was led by Amazing Labs, and it's hosted on Platform SH. And it's been.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's been built by people at Evolving Web with content, and Srian with QA, and 1x Internet with project management, and it's like really like a lot of people and companies and a lot of different people were involved in this. So it's really getting together a lot of great folks to make this happen. So it's really nice.
That is amazing. Is there a case study about that?
There may be. I think Dan started writing up like a short tweet storm about his experience.
Yeah.
We need to do a case study at the end, yeah. But
no, I think that would be amazing because it's such a great story of and these companies all quote unquote compete with each other in the real world, and they came together to achieve this goal in I feel like it was a month ago at the most when we were like, we should really have a site where we celebrate and then we do now. It's just holy shit, that's amazing.
Yeah. I was just realizing this would have been a perfect scenario to have the federated login for Drupal that had been talked about before.
We even had that before for many years. And then we got rid of it for security, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also called Drupal that would log you into any Drupal site.
Yeah.
That is a sweet ass cake. Look at that.
It has
and that must be new because that's the new logo, right?
Blue.
Yeah.
It's not like they oh yeah, we celebrated a few years ago. Let's upload that. It's
looks great. I want to make a cake now.
This is also fun.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah, hard work done.
That's great.
Yeah, so stuff like this is great. Yeah, so I
can imagine. Nice. Was that taken at a DrupalCon? I just imagine that being stuff in the DrupalCon.
Yeah. And there's videos. This is from Amazing. It's like half a minute.
Hi, how's it going? How are you celebrating Drupal? For me, I have a much needed haircut to make. Drupal 8 to Drupal 9, we'll be doing the same. So there we have it, deprecated code gone.
Oh, wow.
Upgrading Drupal 8 to need help to make sure that your page speed is up to standard. Feel free to reach out to us.
I like the planning that was taking place because he must have planned it, you know, to get to grow the hair out and then cut it down. I don't know.
Wow, that was awesome.
Yeah,
That's
so
great.
yeah, so it's happening. 6 days to go.
I'm supposed to go camping that night. I have to maybe try to reschedule my camping.
And party in house.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's for Drupal 9. I think we can, Angie and I can stay on for reviewing the toolbar for Claro, and anybody else interested, feel free to stay on, but you don't need to.
Got Scrum. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
I'm just gonna hang out like a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
I had another follow-up question to that. Is there any are we doing any coordinated social media stuff? Anything pre-planned, or like is there any like pre-planned like here's some good copy that you can tweet, that kind of stuff, or anything you know we can share?
If you look at the at Drupal handle, then it's been collecting people, the list of people that would be able to push out coordinated social media stuff.
Okay, so
sure. The link here.
That would be great.
So, Laurie, Christina, toolbar.
Yeah. So the basic problem is that we want to change the toolbar design globally so that it's not only in Claro, so that we have a consistent toolbar design across the site, so that includes the front end team and the back end team. And basically teams don't, like admin teams don't have the capability of changing the design of toolbar. So we are now trying to weigh different solutions to how to implement that. And let me open the issue. I sent the link. Yep. So I worked with Ben, and we tried to gather all of the pros and cons that we know of for different solutions. And I'm just opening the comment now, so I remember what were the ideas that we had. So maybe I should share my screen. So I think we have 5 options, sort of. So the first option is, I guess, the most complicated to implement. So we have a plan in the core queue about basically allowing to render admin components on the front end using the admin team. But that's pretty far out, and there's probably a myriad of problems that we would have to solve as part of that. So it doesn't seem like a feasible solution. But that would be introducing a consistent pattern, which we could use across all of the different components that need this. But it's probably the hardest one for us to implement. And Claro has kind of like the schedule that we've been thinking of is that we would like to try to make this stable in 9.1, and this solution is definitely not something that we could get done by 9.1. Then the option 2 would be to just simply provide an alternative design in the toolbar, quick edit and contextual links, media library, and layout builder modules themselves. And that would mean that if you have Claro enabled, layout builder and all of these modules would switch to different design because they could get they could basically check if Claro is the admin team. And I guess the biggest pro of that is that it should have the lowest level of complexity of the different solutions because it doesn't require any new APIs necessarily. It can be just some custom code that we hard code into these modules. But I guess one of the problems that we have on that is that we could introduce dead code in these modules if Claro gets removed, and doesn't necessarily provide a long-term solution. For example, if 7 gets moved to contrib, I don't know how are we going to handle that. Like, how are we going to remove the 7 designs from the modules and somehow ship them from 7? I don't know. It doesn't really take into account that. And there's like other technical reasons why it's not necessarily a good idea. But this doesn't really have any product considerations, I guess, because this is basically just a toolbar module, quick edit, and all of these would have 2 different designs. They would have one for 7 and one for Claro. And then we have different kinds of options of providing different kind of API where Claro would be able to override those components. And so one of the solutions, which is kind of a hybrid of the different solutions that we have here, is that we would create a separate module which is kind of a Claro support module. So we could either provide some API that is specific to Claro in there, so that it would provide like extension points for Claro so that it can make those changes in the Claro team itself, or we could just simply add the designs to that module, and it would apply the designs globally on the site. And I guess the pro of that is that it doesn't have the risk of having dead code around, and but the biggest downside is that then users will have to enable a module to be able to install Claro, because of modules cannot be installed through the team, like the appearance page where you install themes, and that also means that the module cannot be hidden, so it has to be a visible module. So I guess we can probably cut the option 1 out based on the fact that it doesn't fit the timeline very well at all. So the remaining options that we have is that we provide an API, or we provide alternative designs in these modules, or we create a separate module on top of that, which either provides an API or does the design, implements the designs. And from product point of view, do you have any thoughts on any of these, and any recommendations?
That's a lot to process. I'm just trying to the options are laid out really well. I'm just like, oh wow.
I have a question? Would option 2, like, could you say like create the new designs if it's Claro, and then everything else revert to the 7 like designs? Because with option 2, you also might have a third party, admin theme like Adminimal or something like that.
Yeah, so we would revert to the 7 designs always when Claro is not enabled, and then it doesn't basically take those third-party solutions into account in any way. They already have figured out their own ways to get around, so they are using the module approach. So, for example, Adminimal has I think it's Adminimal toolbar module, which provides the design for the Adminimal toolbar. So, because we revert back to the 7 designs, the Adminimal toolbar would continue working. What is interesting, though, is what happens if you have the Adminimal toolbar enabled and you run Claro. Because I think you can use that module without having Adminimal installed on your site.
And with option number 3, if you enable the theme, can't themes now have modules as dependencies? Will that not automatically get enabled?
They won't, because that was left out of the scope of the issue, because the issue was getting pretty large, and it's okay. Like over 10 years old issue as well.
You could probably detect if the module is enabled and like throw an error message or something like that and say, hey, you need to enable this module.
Yeah,
right?
we already do that.
Okay.
So we have to, like, it's basically checking if you have the module enabled and throw an error if you don't.
Mhm.
But you have to go manually to the module UI to enable it.
So I remember a while ago, vaguely remember looking at this problem with other people. Maybe it was on a UX call, maybe I was just looking at the issue. And I'm just trying to remember, is there a reason, and this sounds like there's an obvious reason for this, but is there a reason that Claro can't just override like the styling libraries or templates of these other modules to provide the necessary styling?
I don't know if there's a reason why it cannot do it, but it can't do it right now because of basically the libraries overrides work so that it's only the active team that gets to have their say. And so once you have a front-end team that is other than the admin team, then the admin team doesn't really have a say to the libraries.
I see. So for that to work, the libraries would need to work more contextually to know that, hey, the admin theme is active. We should let the admin theme deal with overrides instead of whatever the front end theme is. But that's not possible right now. So
yeah, so we have different kind of approaches how we could
I
try
see
to
what you
surface
mean.
that. And so basically the third solution, like the plain option, would be maybe add some code to system module that would allow Claro to override these specific libraries, maybe. And then maybe the so as part of so Ben has created a proof of concept of that, which already works. So it basically provides an API where a module can define any library to be overridable by the admin team. So it's generic and it would work for other modules, but it's still kind of hacky workaround for the problem, and it's providing an API that we know is not going to be long term. So we don't know if that's a good solution.
In option 2, is the user experience where if I'm at admin / something, the toolbar will look one way, but if I'm at node /4, it will look a different way. And I'd be constantly popping back and forth and it would look different depending on what URL I was on.
So that's the current experience that we have. And that's the specific problem that we're trying to solve. So all of these different options solve the problem, but in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And the option 2 is, I guess from our point of view, we assume that it's going to be the easiest because it has the lowest complexity, but it has like these other cons, like other considerations that we have to take. And the API that we would provide for allowing admin teams to override libraries, we could potentially make it specific to Claro somehow. And but that would be also still an API because other modules could potentially use it because they could allow Claro to override, even though it would be a strange API for us to provide. So I guess
this is hard because honestly, all of these questions are way more framework manager questions than they're really product manager questions.
So I think there's a lot of framework manager questions in here too. I guess the product manager question is like, I guess you agree that the experience should be consistent.
Yes. The current status quo is the toolbar looks the same regardless of what URL you're on. That is what users will expect.
Yes.
So solving the problem is definitely worth solving.
Yeah. And I guess the second question that we have is whether having a module that you have to enable in order to be able to enable Claro is acceptable state.
That is weird. So I know there's been an issue since the dawn of time about allowing themes to require modules in their info files. And I thought that went in. Am I incorrect on that assumption?
No, you're 100% correct that that's in. The problem is that it just doesn't have the piece of code that would automatically enable the module.
See, that is weird because again, a user expectation is if I check off a module that has dependencies on the modules page, it automatically enables any dependencies. So my expectation would be if I'm on a themes page and I check off something that has dependencies, it would automatically enable those as well. How much work is it to add that piece of code that would do that?
It's not necessarily going to be that much of work. Now that it's a separate thing, like when it has been isolated to its own thing. I think Ben looked at that too and said it's something we could probably manage in the timeline.
Yeah, I'm curious how that other patch got committed without that behavior, because that seems like a problem that
The
it
reason
works the way you're describing.
So the reason was that because we had to get the issue done because of the jQuery UI problems that we faced on like Drupal 9. And so we basically just had to find the fastest way possible to get it done.
Okay.
And that was the only part that was missing. So we made a decision that because it was because of the jQuery UI issue, it was basically raised as a critical issue.
Yep.
And because of that, we made a decision that we would leave that part out of it. Maybe product should have been involved in that. I'm not sure if they were, but that is how we got into that state.
Here's a sort of a slight consideration is my assumption is, and I think I'm correct, that Claro is going to be eventually be the default admin theme. So I guess if you have Claro depending on a module, you could kind of like deal with this in the fact that, well, for new sites after like 9.1 or 9.2 or whenever that's going to be, this module can just be part of standard enabled like every other module in standard along with the Claro theme. And then for sites that are upgrading, we could include an upgrade hook that, say you have this module, like this module gets introduced in say 9.1, we also have an upgrade hook that if you have like Claro enabled, that it automatically enables this module in the upgrade hook. Like that probably kind of deals with the 90% use case, because at that point, there's going to be like maybe 10-20% of sites that will enable Claro after like 9.1 that were already on a previous like Roy's and what's the previous admin theme, 7, is that right? I forget. So yeah, I guess there's kind of mitigated in a sense by that, from what I can tell. Just worth to kind of think about as well.
Yeah, I agree that it might, like, I have the same feeling that it could be lower percentage of people who are switching from another admin theme. But I don't know what is the specific number on that. But yeah, I think we could solve the problem where the modules are not being enabled through the theme UI.
Yeah, so I think looking at these options, my preference would be to solve the current usability problem by solving another usability problem, which is when you check enable in a theme, it automatically enables the requirements. Because I think if we do that, that solves everything, right?
It sort of does. So there's still, I guess, a remaining problem, which is that, so we could potentially make the module hidden. And so how are we going to handle if people uninstall Claro so that the module doesn't get turned on forever on sites, because they might not know it exists. I don't know if it's a big problem, but it's something that I think probably release managers and framework managers are going to raise.
Yeah, that's fair.
Do themes have an install and uninstall hook? I think modules do. Could you not do some? I mean, I don't know if that's terrible practice or not to enable a module when the theme runs its install hook or whatever, but like that's also a solution if you make it. It's again, the fact if you make a hidden module, it's less of an issue because nobody's going to be able to enable this module via the UI. So the fact that Claro, and it's a module designed specifically for Claro, and so the fact that like Claro is controlling when it's uninstalled and installed is probably less of a concern, I would imagine.
That's not a, I mean, I'm all about MacGyvering solutions, so that doesn't sound like a bad idea to me, but it does sound like every theme that wants to have functionality it requires, it would have to do that similar hack, and it's better to just fix it in core, I think.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's a good precedent to set.
Right.
And I agree that it's probably better to fix the root problem as well. I'm just kind of like brainstorming things that come to mind at this point. So that there's...
So would be willing to say that Claro gets released in another release because of we wanted to fix the root problem.
I'm just struggling to understand why it's that hard, because why can we not just copy and paste the code that is already running in the modules thing? You know, like it's not like we're writing, like we are writing new code, but it's like we already have logic somewhere that when you check a box on a page and it has dependencies, it enables all the stuff underneath it automatically. And I guess is it like a 1 month problem to solve it? Is it a 3 month problem? Like, I don't have any sense of what the scale is of what we'd be looking at if we tried to solve the underlying root cause.
Oh, I see. So we are talking about, I don't think that might not set us that much behind of the schedule if we solve the teams installing modules problem. I guess a good point that was raised is that I don't think teams are able to run an uninstall hook.
An uninstall hook, okay.
Yeah, so that's another problem that we have, which we would have to introduce, which is going to set us back at least a little bit.
Okay, so the hacky MacGyver way won't even work because there'd be no way to clean up after yourself, basically.
Yeah, like we would have to provide new API to be able
Yep.
to do that, probably.
Okay.
And
Gabor, you've been quiet. What do you think about all of this?
Yeah, I think resolving it is important. I agree that unifying is important. I don't know how much of a length we should go to enable this for other admin themes. I don't think that it's very common to retheme everything. Maybe Jen does it right, but then I don't know who else does.
so there are a bunch of modules that are providing alternative designs for the toolbar.
That's absolutely true, yes. Yeah, so we definitely need to take care of that angle. But other than that, I'm not concerned for having the most elegant general solution.
I would agree with that. I think it's fun, like, given the number of themes and modules that exist out there in the world, the number of modules and or themes that are trying to solve this specific problem is in the, like, I could count it on one hand level. And the number of people that are going to benefit from having a redesigned admin theme in the wild as a default in Drupal 9 is astronomically beneficial. So I would not want to see us burn a whole bunch of time trying to come up with the penultimate solution that would work for any admin theme and creates a lovely targeted API for this. Like, I don't think we need that, but we do need a workaround, I guess, that is not, that doesn't, you know, that passes the framework manager's muster.
So one more consideration to take is that, so Contrib has basically already solved this problem because they are using the modules approach there. Mm-hmm. So any kind of solution that helps to Contrib is going to be a bonus, but it's not, I don't think they are like craving for something like that. It's not necessarily a Contrib blocker per se.
Not that it's a Contrib blocker, but I was more getting at, like, if we solve the problem where right now when you check off themes that have modules, it doesn't enable the module, which causes a bunch of problems. If we solve that problem, that would only help both this and Contrib. Versus if we were to take the approach of engineering an API from the ground up for the purpose of restyling the toolbar.
Yep.
That also solves the problem, but it solves it in a way it doesn't instantly benefit Contrib at all. Contrib has to retool their whole stuff to make use of this new API, if they even choose to do that. And it's a lot of over engineering for a problem space that, like, literally 6 projects are ever going to have.
Yep.
So I would lean against, I think that's option 5, maybe.
So option 5 is, I think option 2 is providing these as part of these modules. So toolbar, quick edit, and contextual links. So basically, we would have some kind of switch there that checks whether Claro is the admin team or not, and decides which design to use depending on that.
Yeah, and that's not great, because then a contrib admin theme can, like, they'd have to hack core to get the same benefit, right?
Yes, but they already have basically solved that, because if they use the contrib modules for doing that. So in a way, they don't need a solution for this.
I see.
Because they've sort of already solved that. But it's something we can't use as easily in core, because it's.
Can you explain cons possibility of dead code if Claro gets removed from core? Why would we remove Claro from core? Or do you mean like 10 years from now again when we get a bug up our butt to like redesign the admin theme?
Well, so this is something that I think Jess raised as a release manager. So basically, there's a very theoretical chance that Claro gets removed before it gets stable, and
we're not gonna.
Then there's a theoretical chance that we would forget to remove this code from these modules, and that's one of the downsides that they've raised, or concerns that they have on this approach.
All right. So from a product management perspective, we are definitely not going to remove Claro. Like Claro, like we've seen.
Thank you.
Yeah, like we've seen in the field. We did a whole bunch of user interviews. I don't remember what DrupalCon that was, say Nashville or something. It was a couple of years ago, but we did a whole bunch of interviews with a bunch of people using Drupal 8, trying to dig into the problem, like why aren't people adopting Drupal 8? And we found an alarming number of people saying that Drupal 8 just looks ugly out of the box. Like you have to do a whole bunch of work to make it not look like shit. And if people are out organically finding Drupal and they come across this admin theme that was designed in 2007 or whenever it was designed, you know what I mean? It's like, we are not going to remove Claro. Even if Claro didn't get stable until 9.52, like we still need a better admin experience than we currently have. And it's not like there's a whole bunch of people chomping at the bit to replace Claro with some other admin solution. Do you know what I mean? So like,
yep.
I would push back on that and say from a product perspective, we need this. Drupal loses deals, if we're going to get into sales terminology, because it doesn't have this. And we make content authors' lives more miserable by not having this. And even just the accessibility improvements alone would be a reason to not kill it, because it's currently better than the standard default admin theme in that regard. So
yeah, I think that makes sense. And I guess the second concern that we have is that we will have to find a solution for 7 if it gets moved to contrib eventually, so basically then I guess the
that one's hard. I don't know how to solve that one. That's a good point.
So I would probably solve it the same way that the other contrib admin teams have solved it. So we would provide a 7 module in contrib, which you would have to enable.
I see.
And people will want to continue running 7. I think they would be fine having to install a module on top of installing the theme.
Yeah, that's going to be in Drupal 10 anyway.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Again, especially if it's declared as a dependency explicitly in the theme's info file, and the system just takes care of turning it on or warning them that it's not there if they try to turn on the theme without it. I think that's a completely viable solution for that.
Yeah, and we might have solved we might have implemented this plan by then. Who knows? So it might not be a problem.
Here's a possible consideration. This might not be an ideal solution, but it's a way of doing it so that like you're not necessarily holding Claro up. So I think that the pattern that contrib is essentially established of like having a supporting module, it seems to make the most sense. It's like I kind of feel weird about the idea that modules have theming code in them anyway. But anyway, so for this supporting module for Claro, not having it enabled doesn't actually break anything. You just get a slightly less consistent design, as I guess you're getting right now. So it doesn't technically like break fundamentally, like your site's not going to stop working. So in theory, if this problem around like enabling a theme that depends on a module, where the theme is not then automatically enabling the module, doesn't get addressed. There's no reason to say, temporarily don't make Claro depend on this module, because then people can still install Claro without having a weird experience of being like, you can't install Claro until you enable this module. And again, most people will probably end up having it installed, Claro installed anyway, and you can then deal with that in an update hook, I guess, in some way, of like installing this module. So like temporarily, you could just have this module, have Claro, not make Claro depend on it. And then eventually when this problem of like having themes being able to actually enable modules gets solved, then you can make Claro depend on this module. But and having that stopgap probably works and isn't fundamentally going to break anything.
Sorry, I keep getting pinged in other windows, which is annoying. Yeah. What's needed from product management here? You want me or Gabor or somebody to add a comment that says, 1, we're never removing Claro, so don't worry about it. 2, that the problem itself is definitely a problem we should solve. It's a big visual regression from the current state, so +1 on solving it however it gets done. And then 3, do you want us to make a stab at the solution?
Not necessarily. I think well, actually, the specific questions that so the first one was, should admin teams be able to control admin components on the front end? So this is the question of whether admin teams should be able to control the front end so that they are consistent with the admin experience.
Say it one more time, sorry.
So should the admin teams be able to control the admin components on the front end, like for example, the toolbar, quick edit, and contextual links? It makes the experience more consistent so that the admin components on the front end follow the same style guide as the admin team.
I think so, yeah. And that's the current situation, right? The toolbar styles are controlled by 7, is that correct?
No, they're not controlled by 7. They're just following the 7 style guide.
Oh,
so the design is in toolbar. It's a toolbar design, and I agree with Aaron that it's a strange pattern that we have designs in modules, because basically we are not supposed to add designs in modules, but these are modules that predate that policy, and they contain designs because of that.
Well, I also vaguely recall that was like the only way to do it back then, or something. Like
it's still the only way to do it.
It's still the only way to do it,
yeah. So right now we're just trying, because of now we are in a situation where we have 2 admin teams at the same time in core for the first time ever. Now is the time when we actually have to, find some kind of a solution to move forward. So that's the first question that would be great to get answered. So that's basically just, do you want to have the consistent experience, and whether the admin team should be responsible of maintaining that. I think it's 2 different questions in that sense. So so that would be one to answer. And so the second one is, so if the release managers have strong concerns on the approach where we include code and experimental code and production code, like experimental code in this production module. So for example, in the toolbar module.
Yeah, they're not gonna.
Would you be fine that we introduce a new visible module that would provide these designs?
I'm not super opposed to that, because they could see it in the list, and they could what I don't like is the experience sounds awful, because it sounds like you have to enable a theme. It sounds like you have to enable the module first, then go back or you'll go to the theme, you'll try to enable the theme. That won't work, because the gray checkbox will be grayed out because there's not the right dependencies, I hope, is what will happen, because otherwise what will happen is you enable a theme without a dependency, and then you get white screens of death the next thing that you do. But then you have to go to a completely different place, enable that thing first, and people won't know to do that. I don't know how they would possibly know that that's what they should do.
Yeah, right now, so the experience is already broken, actually. I just want to highlight this. it would be like one more step broken then. So right now what you have to do is you have to first set your 7 as the default theme of your site before enabling
Oh
Claro.
fuck! Are you serious?
Yeah, and it's not something that is, we don't have these instructions on the the team page. This is only in our like documentation page.
Right.
And you might get a very broken experience if you don't follow these specific steps.
Oh shit! I didn't even know that was a thing. Well, that's pretty.
I didn't either, and I don't.
Why? Why is it like?
But
What happens if you don't follow these steps?
So the problem is that when you enable a theme, we copy the current default theme's block configuration to the theme that is being installed. So depending on which theme is your current theme and how incompatible the block configuration there is with Claro, it depends how broken the experience is going to be on Claro. But the chance of getting the correct or working block configuration from another theme is very small. It is very small.
Is this
like even if you,
yes, sorry.
even if you install this with Bardic or Umami, you get a broken experience if you don't make 7 the default theme first.
Is this the same experience for any admin theme? Like, do they all have to do this? Like, first enable 7 and then enable the admin theme?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I didn't think so, because what was the point of the fact you can put block configuration in a theme? Like you can, in any theme I've dealt with, you put in the config install directory, you put your block configuration layout so that way when it installs, it uses that configuration. Like otherwise it will fall back. I think it just falls back to, like you said, whatever the active is, but that's how I've usually solved it.
So I think the problem in Core is that Core is not, I had this discussion last fall, but Core doesn't have the configuration in theme. It has the configuration in installation profile. And because of that, Claro cannot have it as well. But I don't remember what is the reason why we are not supposed to have the block configuration in the theme. But I think there's a reason why we shouldn't do that.
I can imagine something about dependencies, like dependency hell, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It might have to do with the uninstalling of a theme, that there's like something that doesn't work well if the blocks come in the theme, but I'm not 100% clear on that. But yeah, so this is the experience we have right now, and it would be one more step to this list.
Yeah.
There's an issue to fix this, but it's
yeah, that one looked like, it sounded nice, like, oh, that's a nice simple problem definition, but then it sounded like from your description that would be a whole lot of like it's got a lot of underlying pre-existing problems that have existed for like a decade or more that you have to fix in order to fix that problem.
One of the biggest problems, which actually you could probably use your feedback, if you could say that if you like this idea, you could say +1. So the biggest problem we have right now is that we don't actually have a concept of admin teams and front-end teams in the code level. Like admin teams and front-end teams are, you can enable your admin team as a front-end team, and you can enable a front-end team as an admin team. Yeah. So we don't know like how to treat that team. And we had a discussion, basically we talked about this problem. I think it was one of the reasons why we would like to make this change is that we could actually make these kinds of usability improvements if we know that which teams are admin teams and which teams are not. So that, for example, if you enable another admin team, and it would copy the block configuration from your site's current admin team, not from your default team. But right now, because we don't know that you're enabling an admin team, we can't add that type of logic.
If all this issue is getting at is like a key in the info file that says admin equals true or false, I think that is very non-controversial. If it's getting to behavioral changes where suddenly you cannot make Bartik your backend theme, then I think that's more contentious. the way we set it up was done intentionally because in the olden days, before Drupal 7 and the advent of an admin theme that shipped with core, it used to be the same look and feel throughout. We made that change deliberately because we did user testing with brand new Drupal users and they got completely fucking lost and they never knew where they were. And it's also what like 99% of other CMSs do, or at least did at the time, is have that very stark visual separation between the two. But I get a little bit more nervous. We're talking about removing the ability to make Bartik your admin theme.
Yeah,
So
it's part of this issue.
Are we just talking about adding a flag that we can optionally make behavioral changes on, or are we talking about more than that?
So I think part of the proposal here was that it would include both. So it would include the flag, and also we would limit the number of teams based on whether they are admin teams or not. So basically the list. So there's the administration team select. So only the teams that have been set as admin teams would be on that list.
Yeah. Well, in number 4 though, you highlight the middle ground is add the flag, but don't change anything about it. And I think that is a totally good first step we could definitely do.
Yeah, we could potentially just add the flag. But
this is another area where it would be so fucking nice if we had telemetry, because we could just look, and if we saw that like 95% of Drupal sites have a different theme for their admin versus front-end theme, then this would be a no-brainer. We just say, yep, do it. And then those people that need it can just work around it. But not having that data, I guess I get pretty... I just remember this being a whole fucking thing, and that's why the admin theme configuration is as stupid as it is because it was a compromise reached. It was the only way to get that theme into Drupal core was to add that option. Granted, that was, 2011 or something? So, like, it's been about a decade since then. Maybe it would be less contentious to remove it these days, but I think adding the flag is totally fine. You know, we could even not expose it in the UI in any way at first, and then maybe later we could, expose it as like admin : yes or something, like a subtle thing.
Yeah. So the first child issue here is the issue that would solve the block configuration issue. So once we have the flag, we can then work on this one.
Yeah, I am confused and concerned that we don't have the block configuration in Claro, because the definite plan for Drupal 10 is to get rid of 7 altogether. So if Claro's block configuration is dependent on 7 being present and copy and pasting, that seems like a dead end to me.
It's not actually so the 7 block configuration is in standard. So
it's in standard. Oh my god, what a fucking mess.
Yeah, but if you install 7 with minimal, you're gonna get a broken block configuration by default.
Okay.
And it's the same with Claro. So it's already how it works.
Okay.
I as someone who works with profiles, I don't like the idea that Claro has this invisible dependency on standard.
Yeah, it is weird that things are not self-contained. I get like that's a whole philosophical discussion though, right? It's like, because there's people who want to use Drupal as, say, a content backend store for like a headless, React application, and they're going to have far different opinions about what the default block configuration should be than, but in an admin theme though, it seems like you just, you need header and body, and that's about it, But yeah, I don't know. People do all kinds of different things.
Well, Christina just said that they want to have a discussion about having more varied layouts in admin themes, which would be useful for a dashboard kind of stuff.
But that would be layout builder stuff, right? Like we would ship with some prefabricated. I guess you're saying, and those would ship in the admin theme, not in the standard profile, or that's the. Anyway, we're getting like way down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's actually something that we need to answer. That's a question that needs to be answered also. So.
I have always been a proponent of modules and themes shipping with default configuration that makes them make sense. Like, however, I have been resoundingly mocked for that opinion, and by the small core people who really want the modules themselves to have no opinion over their default configuration and have that whole control lie in the profile. And there's pros and cons either way, right? Like standard profile, as far as I know, is the thing that sets up the contact form to have website feedback and I don't know, some other thing as the default categories. And so 99% of profiles will copy and paste those lines of code into their profiles, but the advantage is that if you want to use contact module and you turn it on, you don't have to undo anything. So
yeah, there's those kind of advantages.
yeah. So the predominant philosophy seemed like among the developer community anyway, seems to be that profiles control site-specific configuration behavior, and the themes and the modules themselves offer essentially no guidance, so that each individual install can be a special snowflake. The disadvantage is that you need to then fucking write a profile so that your individual site is a unique snowflake, which has its own problems. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there.
So what the administration team select, it would be, I think, relatively trivial to provide a contrib module that would then allow you to enable any team as your admin team. Like if people actually want to do that, they could use a module like that.
Yeah, but then we're adding scope to write a fucking contributed module to restore that functionality. You know what I mean? So I don't think this is saving us any time if we.
But like, I think this is my personal opinion. Just that I think it's fine for us to be opinionated on certain things, and I think one of the opinions we should be making is that enabling front-end teams as your admin team is not the standard behavior we expect from users. And if you want that, it's fine that you need to download a extra project to do that.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Because I think like the 80% use case is still that people use some kind of an administration team as their administration team. And then the 20% can figure out.
Yeah, I would love to agree with you on that. But I have no data that would help me agree with you on that.
I agree with that, but I can say that isn't the case because in the university we have our theme also acts as both the front end and admin theme, but it contains an experience that works as the admin theme. So, and again, like if Drupal made an opinion about this, like, you know, we would adapt, but it's just an example that it isn't like always the case that the front end theme is and the admin theme are a separate theme.
But
I think what Lowry's point is that if that were your situation, which it sounds like it is, that you having to download an extra contributed module that does like 3 lines of code in a hook system info alter or whatever it is, would be not a tremendous amount of effort.
No, it wouldn't, and I'm not making it like I'm not saying I'm not saying that would be a problem. I'm just making the point that, you know, we can't just assume that everybody right now is using a separate admin theme. Like,
no, not everyone is doing that. And in your case, it sounds it's very sensible that you would actually mark the team as admin team, because what part of the proposal is that you can still run admin teams as the default theme of your site. It's just not like if it doesn't have the admin team flag, you can set it as the admin team, and you would just set your team as admin team, and you would be good to go.
I think it also depends on what that flag is called, because like, if you call that flag something super generic, like just admin_theme, like it leaves room for ambiguity in what we were allowed to do with this precedent that we've introduced, that there's a flag that can set a theme as admin theme. Like immediately my head is thinking, oh, well, that means that this theme is explicitly an admin theme, and I should only use, like, if I'm building a theme, I should be like, okay, this theme should only be used as an admin theme. You know, like in my head goes to that position of like, this is never going to be possibly be a front end theme, versus like setting a theme like as admin_theme is true. I don't immediately think then, oh, I'm going to use this as a front end theme as well.
That is literally the point. Yes. The point is that because we don't have an opinion, there is no way to treat themes that would otherwise be designated as admin themes differently than the other ones. And so that is what is proposed to add here. is an explicit flag, whether it's type :admin or admin_theme equals true or whatever. But we would make that designation and force a line in the sand.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
why I
and
think
right
it's
now we
important to
don't.
get that right.
Yeah, right now we don't make that designation. Like all of the teams are the same, basically. Not basically,
But
they are.
wouldn't it make sense to like make a suggestion then? Because like there is one site where I use 7 as the front end. It's not really there's a decoupled site as well, but there's some of the things are still on Drupal, and it works great. Like,
yeah.
But it's like a suggestion. No, like I mean, is it the admin theme? But the implication is that the admin theme, like the admin UI parts, are from the admin theme, right? That's
what I was saying. Is if it's just a flag, I have no issues at all. But if it starts changing system behavior, where you can no longer enable certain themes as admin themes, or you can no longer enable certain themes as front-end themes, I do feel like that needs a round of feedback from people.
So I think the specific purpose that we want to, like, one of the motivations to this is that we don't want people to enable Bardic or Umami as the admin themes, because we don't officially support something like that. And the other way around, so here, if you look at the proposed solution, it's here. So it should be still possible to admin themes as the default theme of the site, because of I would say that's a pretty common use case to use the admin theme as the front end theme. Like, there are numerous sites doing this. And if you want to use your front end theme as your admin theme, then you just mark it as admin theme, and you can use it as both. It's basically, the idea is just that, like, Bardic and Umami, I think it's bad experience for our users because they might expect that it works, but it doesn't. Right now, we don't guide them in any way in the UI. That it's not recommended for them to set Umami as their admin theme, for example. It works great if you work on the front end side, but if you go to the admin, it's not designed for that, and that doesn't work well. Like, many of the UIs are broken.
Yeah, this is kind of what I was trying to say about why I think it's important that this, whatever this flag is called, there's like, we don't just say, oh, we're introducing this new flag and it's not going to do anything. I think we need to be very careful around what this flag is called and what the intention of it is, even if we're not doing anything with it right now, because you know, if you say sorry, I lost my train of thought.
I'm going to just put a tweet out there and see if I can get some tangential information. I really wish we had better ways of getting information than me tweeting something, but it is what it is.
Also, we are entirely out of time and running in circles.
Yeah, I know. I feel like we need almost like a separate meeting just to talk about this or something. Anyway, the bottom line is I want to leave a comment that helps move this forward. What can I say that will help you guys?
So there's the questions in the bottom of the comment on the,
okay,
and if you can just answer to those questions, I think you don't necessarily have to go deep into the different solutions. That if you can just answer the question 1 and 2, that would be already, that would be very helpful and help us move forward as we discuss with the framework managers and release managers on the solution.
Yeah. Okay, I will do that, and then maybe Gabor, I'll run what I'm about to say past you and make sure you don't disagree with it. And then I'll make a tweet about that admin versus fronting thing, because if it's a landslide that everyone does it the same way, then that's easy. You know, again, knowing that our data pool is going to be a bunch of Drupal experts, not actual people using Drupal, who are, you know, but whatever, it's a data point that we can get. So. Okay, thanks everybody.
Yeah, thank you all, and sorry for running late.
Nah, it's important. Thanks a lot for bringing it up. Okay, bye everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks,
bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Wow.